for this week, so obviously today's your A block day. We've got our Zoom calls. The video quiz was due, and then we're going to talk about your test. On Wednesday, that's your test. So remember, 1, please get in on time so that we have the full time to do the work. You'll need to log in on a second device, phone or computer, so that you can use your iPad as the quiz taker. You will be on screen just like you were on the quiz before, and you'll work on the Canvas quiz, making sure you have a scrap paper for your work that's nicely, clearly labeled for me. Some of them were all over the place last time, and it's really hard to find stuff. You need to make sure you're showing your work. The catch with these is they're multiple choice, so you have to be really, really careful and not pick the wrong one. And I don't know, I don't know that I'll be able to do partial credit, depending on, I guess, the case. Like, if you literally pick the wrong sign on something, I'll try to pay attention to that, and do my best, but I'm not going to guarantee that, and it's going to depend on how clear your work is. Gia's question is, you didn't explain all the steps in detail because you're trying to make the video shorter. As long as the steps are there and you're not like jumping steps, I think you'll be okay. I have to kind of look at what you're talking about to know exactly if what it means, but I think you'll be okay. Okay, so I think that's good for Wednesday. So I'm going to jump into the test review. These were all odd answers, so they're all on Calc Chat, but I wanted to take the time to see if you've got questions. So I'm just going to go section by section, and then if you want to either chat it or you want to ask it in the gallery, that's fine. But let me know what you need me to work out. So this starts with 9-1. We'll start there. 9-1 is your parabolas and your circles. So you could get information like what the center and the point on the circle. These are endpoints of diameter, stuff like that. And you have to give me the equation of the circle. It could ask you to graph it or identify the graph of it. And then something like number 9, these would already be in standard form. And then it could ask you information out of there. Then came your parabolas. So your parabola started here. So from here to here, circles. And then your parabolas started. So you want to be able to take an equation and identify the vertex, the foci, the directrix, or vice versa. If I gave you the vertex and the directrix, give me the equation. If I gave you the vertex and the foci, give me the equation. So just make sure you can do that in both orders. So the example that's on here just has focus. Realize that you could do vertex and directrix. And there's one of those examples on the review video I posted Thursday. Any questions on circles? I'll do number 33 when I get to it, but for 3 through 9, any questions there before I move on to... Okay. Number 27 started your ellipse. So again, here's your equations. How do I take the information out of here? It could ask you to graph this. It could ask you for your center, your vertices, your foci, anything like that. Valentina, that's fine. I just don't want 20-minute videos. I'll cry if I have to grade 100 20-minute videos. Like, that's a lot of minutes. 5 minutes and 50 seconds is totally fine. Okay, any questions on 27 or 29 before I get to the next page? So these are your ellipses. Shocker. A period. No question. Moving right along. Okay, 33 was asked. Okay, so I'll work it out, but realize that I'll tell you like the point that it would actually be given to, because it will already be in standard form. So 3x squared, I'm going to group these together, 12x, and then 8y squared, and 112y, and then bump the 403 to the other side, so it's negative 403. So then I take out the 3x squared plus 4x, and I take out the 8y squared minus 14y, negative 403. And then I complete the square. So on the 4, I divide by 2. That's 2 squared. It's 4. I'm going to add 4 on the inside and add 12 to the outside. I take the 14, divide it by 2. That's 7. 7 squared is 49. Add 49 in here and add 49 times 8. 392 to the outside. So I get 3x plus 2 squared plus 8y minus 7 squared equals, and that's negative 403 plus 12 plus 392, which is positive 1. So this time this is actually already set equal to 1. This is technically in standard form. This is where it gets tricky because you can't leave these guys here. So they have to become your denominators. And by doing that, you're flipping them. Think about if it was the reverse. If I was dividing by a fraction, I would multiply by the reciprocal. So when I take the top down, it has to become its reciprocal, which means this would be x plus 2 squared over 1/3 plus y minus 7 squared over 1/8. The good news is I didn't do this to you on your test, but it does exist when you have the fractions. I think one of the ones on the quiz may have had a fraction on the bottom. So I think it was for the hyperbolas though. So when you're identifying your center, it's negative 2 and 7. The bigger number is 1/3, which means that this is horizontal. The a squared is 1/3, which would mean a equals the square root of 1/3, or the square root of 1 over the square root of 3, or 1 times root 3, which is root 3 over 3. The b squared is 1/8. So b equals the square root of 1/8. b equals 1 over root 8, or 2 root 2. So this is root 2 over 2 times 2, which is 4. So then when I go to graph this, I'm going to start at negative 2, 7. And I'm going to count right and left. Now this is the exact, like square root 3 over 3 is the exact. I probably wouldn't use that. I would probably do 1 divided by 3 in my calculator and then square root it. So from here, I'd get 0.6. That way it's easier to graph it. And the same thing with the 1/8. 1 divided by 8 and then square root it. 0.35 or 0.4. So now when I go to graph it, I would use those values. So I'm going to go to the right, 0.6, left, 0.6, up 0.4, down 0.4. It's a teeny tiny ellipse. And then your foci, does it ask for it on this one? Yeah, so your foci, because it's an ellipse, it's a squared minus b squared. C squared would equal 1/3 minus 1/8. So this becomes 8/24, and this becomes 3/24, 5/24. And there's your C. So then I'm going to add and subtract that from the center. The x coordinate though, because this is horizontal. The A got added, so this is the foci. The A got added and subtracted from the x as well. And the co-vertices got added and subtracted from the y. So process the same as normal, right? It's just that it's tricky because there's a fraction in the bottom. I'm not going to do that to you on your test, but it is the same exact process. For an ellipse, this c squared is equal to a squared minus b squared, and for the hyperbola, it's a squared plus b squared. It's always the opposite of your standard sign, right? So in a standard equation of an ellipse, it's a plus in between, and the c squared is equal to a squared minus b squared. And then the reverse for the hyperbola is a minus, and then it becomes a plus for c squared. questions on anything else on this page? So we'll go into the hyperbolas, which started at 43. My advice is to make yourself kind of like a cheat sheet. If we've got time, I'll try to like work out what I would put on there today so that you're not having to go back and forth in between a bunch of notes. So even if you took and try to condense like the review video, not with all the examples, but with just the general concept stuff, I would say it's going to be a lot easier, because you cannot waste your time on your test going in and out of notes to try to find things. Like, it will take you too long and you won't be able to finish. No other questions on hyperbolas? Okay, so I'm going to do 37. So the vertices are -3, 0, and 7, 0. And the foci is 0, 0, and 4, 0. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, and obviously we know this is an ellipse because it's headed in the directions. Okay, so the first thing you can find, well, first thing I can identify super easily is that this is horizontal. So this is going to be an x over a and a y over b. The center is the midpoint in between the foci or the midpoint in between the vertices. It doesn't matter which one you pick, it would be the same. So this point here is 2, 0. I can either get it from the graph, or I can take my coordinate points like the, let's just say I take the vertices -3, 0, and 7, 0, and I find the midpoint. So -3 plus 7 over 2, 0 plus 0 over 2, I'd get 4 over 2, 0 over 2, and I get 2, 0. So either way, if you graph it accurately, you just gotta be really careful. Or you use the midpoint formula, you should know that your center is 2, 0. So then from center to foci is 2, that's your C. From center to vertex, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, that's your A. Now all I have to find is C. So B. C squared equals A squared minus B squared for an ellipse. 2 squared would equal 5 squared minus B squared for 25. -21 would equal -B squared, and B would equal, or B squared would equal 21. Now that's all the information I need to know, right? Because it didn't ask to ask for it. Nope, it just said find the standard form. So I'd get x minus 2 squared over a squared. We said a was 5, so this would be 25. Plus y minus k squared, y minus 0 squared over b squared, which is 21, equals 1. And then this is again multiple choice, so it would say x minus 2 squared over 25 plus y squared over 21 equals 1. You wouldn't see the minus 0. For 55 and 57, the equations will be given just like that, not in standard form. If it is in standard form, so like if you ever saw a question like that, think about the fact that if it's a plus, then it's an ellipse. If this was a minus, it'd be a hyperbola. If it was a parabola, you'd only have one variable squared, and if it was a circle, there'd be nothing in front of the parentheses. That's how you would know the difference between them. But the question on your test that asks you to classify is just like 55 and 57 words in general form. Any other questions before I move on to the next slide? Okay, so I would say if I was going to make like a cheat sheet for myself, I would go through the standard form circles. X minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared. HK is the center. R is the radius. And honestly, that's pretty much as you need to know for circles. Circles are the easy ones, right? You might have to get the equation. We have to plug stuff in, but we've been doing circles literally since the first week of school. I don't know if you remember, but this was in the preview chapter. Then comes the parabolas. And there's two types. There's your vertical and there's your horizontal. This is x minus h squared equals 4p y minus k. And this is y minus k squared equals 4p x minus h. So the difference is what's squared. If the 4p is positive, this points up. If the 4p is negative, this points down. And for the horizontal, if it's a positive 4p, it points to the right. If it's a negative 4p, it points to the left. Your vertex is hk. Again, p is the distance from the vertex to the focus and the vertex to the directrix. If it points up, then your focus is inside, your directrix is below it. If it points down, your focus is still inside, but your directrix is above it. And these would be, zoom in on those, these would be y equals the number equations. For the horizontal ones, if it points to the right, then your focus is inside, your directrix is vertical. And if it's negative, it points to the left, the focus is inside, the directrix is vertical, and these are x equals equations. Then came ellipses, which also there are two of. Horizontal is x minus h squared plus y minus k squared. And the x goes over the a. The a is larger. For vertical, it's y minus k. And really, it doesn't have to come first, but it does have to go over the larger number. So then you get A is the distance from, well, let me do the center. Center is HK. A is distance from center to vertices. B, center to co-vertices. C, center to foci. C squared equals A squared minus B squared for an ellipse. So if it's horizontal, it's wider than it is tall. If it's vertical, it's taller than it is wide. So for the horizontal, the A and the C get added to the X coordinate. So this would be H plus and minus A, K for the vertices. K plus and minus B, H, comma, K plus and minus B for the co-vertices, and H plus and minus C for the foci. For the vertical, it happens in reverse. It's K, H, and then the K plus and minus A for the vertices. H plus and minus B for the co-vertices. And H, K plus and minus C for the foci. So what's in that box in the middle is true for all of it. And then the stuff on the sides are like particular to either the vertical or the horizontal. questions on that one before I move into hyperbolas? And remember the review asked for eccentricity, but I didn't put that on your test. It's just C over A, but I didn't put it on your test. Okay, then came hyperbolas. And again, there's two kinds. For the horizontal, the X comes first, and the order is important this time because it should be positive first. For the vertical, the Y comes first. So this A is first. These would be pointing this way, and these would be this way with your asymptotes like this and like this. Good morning, Chris. Thanks for joining us. Chris, I need to see your camera, please. Thank you. All right, so for these, the HK is again the center. The A is again the distance from the center to the vertex. B, center to covertex. C, center to foci. So all that's the same as a ellipse. C squared equals A squared plus B squared this time. So that's one of the big differences. And then the horizontal asymptote, Y equals K plus and minus B over A, X minus H for the asymptotes. And then for the vertical one, it's Y equals K plus and minus A over B, X minus H. So the difference is B over A or A over B. For horizontal, it's B over A. For vertical, it's A over B. This is true for all of it. Okay, so if I wanted to find the, let's say I want to say the vertices for the horizontal, I'm going to take my H and I'm going to add and subtract A. For the covertices, I'm going to take my K, add and subtract B. And for the foci, it's H again. That's if it's horizontal. If it's vertical, then I leave the H, I change the K. For the vertices, I change the H. For the co-vertices, and I change the K for the foci. And then the last thing we did was identify the type, right? The types of conics. So it's A x squared and C y squared. There's obviously going to be other values there. If A equals C, it's a circle. If A times C, put it underneath it. is 0, it's a parabola. If A times C is positive, then it's an ellipse. And if A times C is negative, then it's a hyperbola. You're only going to get one question on there, but you will get one question, so that should be an easy one. So that is like, I mean, that's basically everything you need to know for your test on one screen. I would rewrite it because that's teeny tiny and hard to read right now, but it's also, the more you rewrite it, most of us connect that rewriting to your brain. That's going to help you. And then you might find you don't even need it, right? If you did all the practice that you were to do, hopefully that could come straight from your brain. But the good news is that when you're, yes, I'll leave it there so you can take a screenshot. The good news is that when you're, like when you're on your test, on Wednesday, you have this reference. In a normal class setting, you wouldn't have this reference sheet. So you'd have to memorize it all. So it's definitely another Corona perk that you get to have your, all this reference sheet for you. My advice is just to be really careful and not spend too much time on this so that you can't go through the questions and answer them. It's not going to be a lock as you go question. It's going to be one at a time so that you don't have them all on one screen because I think it's overwhelming, but it's not going to be a lock as you go. So if you need to go through and answer the ones that you're confident about, do that and then go back and work on the ones that you have to get into your notes, but watch your time. And that's why it's 1, so important to make sure we're on time on Monday, and 2, that you're ready to go, that I can see your workspace like you had to do with your quiz. The quicker we can get on to that stuff, the more time you're going to have for your test. If you are late to class and I don't think you'll be able to finish your test, I'm not going to let you start it. So keep that in mind. Set like 12 alarms if you need to on Wednesday. And then you'll have to take the makeup with me, which I would prefer not to have to do. All right, any other questions on this stuff? Okay, I have a quizzes for us to work on. So I want you to go to quizzes or take my quiz, join my quiz, whatever that website is. I'll pop it up as soon as I see. There's some people still coming down, so I'll pop it up as soon as I'm done. I'll try to take you there. But if you click on the module that has Zoom and you click on the Zoom link, there's a little tab at the top that says Zoom recording or cloud recordings. And if you click there, that's where you can get to the old Zoom recordings.